And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with the Game Boy Geek.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek. All aboard! We're going to be jumping on top of the Titanic today. SOS Titanic from Ludonaut in the United States. It's distributed by Game Salute. Bruno Cathal is the designer along with Ludovic Maublanc. And as you know, Bruno's one of my favorites, so this should be interesting. It is sort of a variant on Solitaire, 30 minutes, 1 to 5 players, ages 8 and up. Let's take a look and see how can you make a thematic game that's similar enough to Solitaire that's interesting enough. Let's check it out. At the beginning of the game, we randomly draw a person who historically was on the Titanic. He gets a special action, which we'll talk about later. He gets to draw a certain amount of cards, 1 through 5, and we get a certain amount of action cards to start the game. We'll talk about what those do later. So here we have the Titanic. It's set up for 4, 6, 8, and 10 passengers in each of these lines. Think of these lines as passengers waiting in line to get into the lifeboats to get dropped into the sea and be on their way. Now, we have 2 classes of passengers. We have the yellow-backed passengers, which are economy class, and those numbers go from 1 to 17, and there's 2 of each number. The other one is the purple ones. Those are first class passengers, and those numbers go from 1 to 13, and there's 2 of each of those as well. So in total, we're going to have 2 boats for first class, 2 boats for economy class, and we're going to try to get them all in there. Now, just like Solitaire, on your turn, the first thing you do is try to move passengers around. Now, we have 2 10s, a 12, and a 4. It doesn't look like we can move anything here. So the Titanic's going to sink from the back to the front, so we want to get through these cards first. We have 2 open lines here, so I can take this 10, I can move it over here to this open line, and then flip this card up a la Solitaire. Ooh, I have a 9. So I can move this 9 here because, just like Solitaire, we have a 10 and a 9 because it's the same color, same class of passenger, and because it's consecutively going down in value, we could put our card there. If this was purple, we couldn't put purple on yellow. They have to stay segregated. We have 1. Ooh, this is cool. This is a lifeboat. Let's show you what you do with this. We now found this lifeboat here, so it goes up top. We now have 1 of the first class lifeboats, and it starts on number 1. And of course, whenever we get a number 2 that comes up, that's purple, first class, boom, we can put it there. Now we're going to work our way up. So from here, we're working our way down in numbers. From here, we're working our way up in numbers. And now we continue to see if we can move more passengers. So we have this 12 we can put over here in the 13. 13 to 12, same color. And, ooh, we have another 12. So what we could do is we could take this 4 and move it over here because there's still an open lane over here. We'll flip this up, and we have a 10. And at this point, it looks like we are pretty much stuck. There's no other moves we can do. So when you're stuck, you can do one of 2 things. You can either draw this many cards from the passenger deck, and this thematically is going down into the cabins and trying to find people to bring up to try to rescue. I can draw anywhere from 1 to 5 cards. However, the trick being it's sort of a press your luck element where when I draw these cards, if I cannot rescue any of them, meaning I cannot play them on any of the things here, they go to a discard pile, and time will go by, and we will begin to flood the ship here, and we'll start to run out of time. So you want to draw enough cards that you can play them, but you don't want to always draw them too far because when the deck ends, this ship will also sink. So one of the choices is we can pull cards from the passenger deck. The other action we could do instead of that, once we've already moved passengers or are stuck, are play one of these 2 action cards. Let's take a closer look at these. The Come On allows us to look into the whole entire passenger deck and look for a card that we want and play it and then shuffle them. So we can basically grab any card we want out of there. It's really powerful. Get Ready is we can take the top 5 cards from that deck, look at them, put them in any order, then put them back on top so we know it's coming. Both of these are very good options. I think I'm going to use this card here, discard it, and use this option. So I'll draw those 5 cards. I'll look at them. I've already looked at them, and I've see that there's only really 1 card I can use. I'll put that on top. I'll go here, and then I start a new turn, which is moving passengers around, but since nothing's happened, I know I'm stuck. So I'll pull just 1 card because I know it can be played, and I'll put it right there. Now my next turn here, I know that I'm stuck here, so I'm going to grab 5 cards, which is the maximum that I know that my person can draw. Different people can draw a different amount of cards. And I know I've looked at these and I can say, let's say, none of them can be used. So what happens is I discard all of them, and the Titanic begins to sink, and you'll see that the water begins to come up here. Now, if this happens a couple more times, and it gets sunk, and it sinks even more, and this line is completely gone, mass hysteria happens, and these people run into the other people's line. So no matter how many cards you had right and in order, crazy stuff happens, and they're running in, causing confusion in the other line, and basically they get all shuffled and moved down, and you just have one card here. And if this to the sink, these two whole things will get shuffled and put down. So as the game goes on, this will begin to flood, and the time keeps going up to 218, and you'll have this really cool artwork of it sinking, and then your time will finally run out eventually at the end of the book, where it will say game over. And every time one of those columns disappear, you move it forward and shuffle it with the next line and put them up so it gets harder as the game goes on. Now, how do we win the game? Well, you're totally successful if you have gotten all the people off. Now, the rulebook actually tells us that historically, they only got 19 passengers off. And so let's say we had all these the boats. Again, there's going to be 2 of each boat that's going to be up there. You're going to have 2 purple and 2 yellow. So let's say we did not rescue everybody. We ended up dying. Some of the passengers died, and we have our 4 lifeboats, and this is how many characters we got on there. Essentially, you would just add up the number on top of each of the lifeboats, and in this case, we have 33 points here. That would be our score. Let's just say we did get all of them. We would have, the yellows would have 17s, and the purples would have 13s, and it would be a total of 60 points from the characters. Then we add the points that's on the book page that we finished it at. So if we had 60 up here, this would be 63. And then you would go through and you would look at how many consecutive anchor icons you had in each of the 2 colors. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 was the most we had in this purple stack. And we would look through this one, and the one that had more, we would keep those points. So it would be 63 plus 4 anchors, and we would do the same for yellow, and then we'd tally up and see what our total score would be. Now, there's 11 different types of these action cards that you can use. 2 of my favorite are the collapsible boat, which allows you to take that card and use it off-site as an extra line that you can put anybody in, because they're sort of on a boat, but they're off the ship. Gives you an extra line to deal with. Another was a mystery passenger, where you can use that for whatever color that mystery passenger is. You can use that for any number. So it's really good to sort of shoehorn in if you're 1 number away from a big move, and you can use that mystery passenger. But there's a lot of different ones that are in the game. And there's all sorts of different crew members. There's 10 different guys, depending on how many players you have. Like this guy, when you fail, you take 3 action cards instead of 1. This guy takes 2. So there's all different ways to do it. And then when you add more players, it allows you to add even more characters here. But there's a lot of characters. There's some variants that you can change how many cards are in each pile to make it harder. And you're always trying to beat your best score. All right, well, there's SOS Titanic. I've got to admit, I am not a person who plays solo board games by myself. I just never do it. However, with this game, I might start playing because it's fun and it's addicting. When you get done playing a game, you want to shuffle it up and play it again. And you always want to beat your score. You're going to keep track of your scores. You're always going to want to try to beat your scores. It's got like this, it's weird. It's hard to explain. It's something so simple yet so fun. Even if you're playing just by yourself, it's addicting and you want to keep playing. So I was very surprised at this because I've never felt that way. Even some of the co-op games that I've played solo with 2 characters and things like that, thinking a lot, they were fine. But, this one I wanted to keep playing over and over solo. I liked it a lot better solo than I did cooperative. I played it with 2, 4, and 5 players. And I gotta say, none of the other experiences did I like nearly as much as solo. Because you're almost always, if you don't like the cooperative alpha gamer, you're gonna hate that. Because in this game, it's almost like someone's gonna do something, you're like, no, you can do that. No, that's not the best thing. It almost lends itself more to looking over someone's shoulder. And it's it's interesting how they have the different characters and people have different abilities, and that part about the cooperation is interesting. But everything else is kind of like, it was just too much everyone telling each other what to do, more than suggesting. So I just like it as a solo game. I probably will never play it as a co-op game again. Some people might like it, I just didn't. So great solo game, and it's one I'm going to keep, one I'm probably going to play, which really surprises me. I love how everything was sort of thematic. Hey, if it starts to sink and that line hasn't made it up, they're all going to scurry into the next line. They're all going to get shuffled up and laid out. So, it's hard to say, well, how can you make a thematic game of Titanic in solitaire? But it does a great job. Now, for the gamer, if Augustus was gamer bingo, this is definitely gamer solitaire. It gives you enough to think about, enough things thematically. Those action cards are cool, and there's more to think about than you would think. Not that it's a hard game. It's not a heavy game, but thinking of it as a simple solitaire variant, there's still more to think about than you would imagine. I've played this with 4 or 5 people that don't play board games, but they were familiar with solitaire. They liked it, but sometimes as gamers, we forget how much we know and how many rules we're used to. The people that I played it with liked the game, but the characters, the special abilities, and the special action cards was almost too much for them. They're like, I just want to play it without that. Even though the game's harder, because when you flip the book, you get one of those action cards which helps you. It's harder if you don't play with those, but I found the people that don't play games, my grandmother, my mother, my brother, they're not really gamers, and I wanted to buy this for them for Christmas, and I probably still will get it from after Christmas, but they would probably play it without the action cards, at least for a while. And even though it might be surprising to us, like, hey, this isn't that hard, we forget that people that don't play board games, that's still a lot of rules. So if you're going to play it with someone who doesn't have it, maybe try it without the action cards right up front. But for gamers, it's going to be great. So that's what I think SOS Titanic. It's definitely a winner. Hey, one more thing before you go. If you're about to drop a comment on this YouTube page for this video and you're expecting interaction or a personal response from me, I recommend the place to do that is at my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/thegameboygeek, because I don't get notified when YouTube videos get comments on the Dice Tower Network because I don't own the channel. So if you want to interact with me directly, I'll see you at my Facebook page.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.